I was just trying to find it, but I saw this headline um, that just said, research shows Latino voters are very much like all other voters. Like this is like a fascinating discovery that this group that you've put together that actually has no meaning because there's so many disparate cultures within it. They have the same thoughts and feelings and differences between them and among them as anybody else. And so, yeah, I mean, I think Melissa's right about, basically what we're doing is creating voting blocks so that then we can take action in certain ways. But I wonder if the trade-off is worth it, right? Because then you think about, oh, we need to get the Latino vote. We need to get the Asian vote. But what is the Asian vote? And the implication is automatically there that all these people that you've grouped together think the same. And so there's one policy to attract this one group of millions of people. And, again, like with the subdivisions, Melissa, you mentioned that immigrants have a lot in common, right? But you can even subdivide there. There's, I think, a marked difference between immigrants who came here when they were young and immigrants who came here after they were fully grown adults.
Correct. Yeah.
Right now, I forget which. I think you were you're a teenager maybe when you got here.
Oh yeah,
is that right?
Much older.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's different than if you got here when you were 5, or even when you were 10. Right, it's a different experience, and so there you go. We can subdivide these cohorts into smaller and smaller groups to get more precision, and that precision makes sense to me. But the larger sort of thing doesn't make sense to me at all. Now, you and I were at a conference recently where one of the things we discussed was actually petitioning the U.S. Census to remove or modify the way it categorizes or collects racial data, right? So it asks you what is your race, and it gives you a very limited set of potential responses, right? And what we were talking about during the conference was just changing the language slightly. So instead of saying, what is your race? It's asking, how are you racialized? Just to kind of take a step forward in this process of eliminating this category altogether. But so much of the conversation was about whether that actually ends up reinforcing the categories themselves, right? And then there's all this ambiguity about the subjectivity of how you're racialized. I couldn't answer the question.
Yes, I know.
How I'm racialized is really depending on the person, and I have no way of knowing, right? So some people insist that I'm Black. Some people insist that I'm Black. And some people insist, based on the things I've written and said, that I'm white.
Politically white. You're politically white.
Yeah, I'm politically white. And then some people insist that I'm mixed, right? Like, people from the Dominican Republic, their ancestry goes to Europe and Africa. So I'm mixed. And that's what I have to write. But none of those things make any sense, But so I'm wondering if there's any reason at all to collect this data in that way. There's a tension within you even because you love data. You love collecting this stuff. You love categories. It's great for data. But what is the point of the data?
Yeah, I see. I exactly know what you are talking about. And let's talk about that census question. I don't think it ever get implemented because racial lies, I actually tried something with many people. They don't know what is racial lies. The word doesn't make sense for them. So, just people don't know how they are racialized. Like, I know I'm racialized. Everybody look at me, so you are Asian. Why I even care, right? Why should I care about how other people see me? But there is one thing quite progressive about that questionnaire. It's called, I have no racial identity. I will click that box. But I may click I'm racialized as Chinese. Because you see there is some competition. Because this data is important for someone else. For some civil rights activists, they want to use the number of 5 million Chinese to want to get some resource. And I very much know those most resources will not go to me or maybe do something against my interest. But still, there is a human sense of, I don't like the word solidarity, but maybe solidarity, they accomplish something because they share some similar trait of you. And I think that is something we need to overcome. Like this.
Yeah.
If we all overcome this natural urge of, oh, I want to help my women people, we have to overcome that. Otherwise, we will all trap in this category forever. And a lot of time, and you say, I need to overcome this because I'm a researcher. I want that data, and I better give it up. Because the more I want it, and because if I create a box, it is generation to come. It's not just that I successfully put a box into census and I get my data. Oh, it will last 100 years. Then think about that.
You know, I think there is some complexity to racialization, right? Because there's sometimes I enjoy being racialized as Chinese, and there's sometimes I don't. When I get pulled over for a speeding ticket, I hope the cop racialized me as Chinese. But when I'm trying to parallel park in public and everyone's staring at me, I hope I don't get racialized as Chinese. So it's very complex when I like getting racialized and when I don't. And I think it, like, ultimately this conversation is resting upon this idea of stereotypes, that when we are all categorized this way and there's this overarching, identity that's thrust upon us, that we are subject to whatever, average that the entire category refers to. And sometimes they are good stereotypes, sometimes they are bad stereotypes. And in a way, we all get, affected by it, even regardless of whether the identity exists, right? And so even if we don't identify that way, I think the reason why this question gets asked, which is how are you racialized, is because the idea is that how you are racialized by other people affects how you are treated.
Right.
How you are treated affects your experience of life in America. And so, there's just two ways to look at this, because so much of it is external, right? Like, in a way, you don't really have a say. You don't really have a choice in how other people are seeing you, whether or not this category exists. Like Daisy, you were saying you hate it when other people make assumptions about you because you're Chinese. But at the end of the day, you don't really have a say in that. Like, how you are treated by other people. It's what they're going to see. And so there's that other complexity. And, I don't know how to resolve that.